And a very, very good evening to you all, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Black and White United Show. This is the fan forum where everybody is going to be able to have their say. First of all, special thanks to our sponsors, the Hopper Bros Barbecue, for all your tips and tricks and everything barbecue. Make sure you give them a follow on Instagram, and also to Northern Cleaning Solutions. Guys, we've got a massive show today. We are going to talk everything about the trade period and where Collingwood is sitting at the moment. The link is in the chat. If you scroll up, you'll be able to see the StreamYard link. Please feel free, click the button, jump on. I'll post it in there again now for you, so you can all see it. Collingwood supporters, non-Collingwood supporters, whoever is on and wants to talk about their team, just jump on. Just jump on, have a yarn. Let's just get straight to it. We have Jai Simpkin to talk about. We're going to talk about the row bottom situation, which is now off. I'm going to leave the Humphrey stuff out for now. If anyone wants to bring it up, they can, but it's not part of the agenda today. We can talk about DeGoey. We're going to talk about Jack Buller. I want to touch on Tom Mitchell and Mason Cox also, and sort of what lies with them moving forward. And also, we need to address Brody Mychek, obviously, departing the Collingwood Football Club. It's a sad one. It's an understandable one. I really don't think there's going to be any sort of animosity between club, player, fans, and that type of stuff. And I've spoken about this in one of my general updates of the trade and stuff like that. I do think that, it's good for him for what he's doing. And obviously, the better offer is there. There's a helicopter flying over the house right now. Everything's shaking. I thought it was an earthquake for a second. I full shat myself. I'm thinking, great. Imagine if there's an earthquake and I'm live on the thing. Anyway, let's just get straight to it. It is time for the first jab.
Shame on anyone who's been a champion.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
So I could have gone the obvious one about the whole DeGoey situation, and obviously Tom Morris bringing it up in the media, and then all of a sudden it's gained legs. And now there's a potential Hawthorn pick 9 that could be there, and what that means. I was going to go down that path. I'm not. My first jab today is just something a little bit more like really sort of thing. Like, I understand, but it's a bit cheesy, I thought. And not everyone's going to agree with me, but I've got to say, the statement coming from the Tassie Devils, just in regards to Buckley getting the gig as assistant coach of Geelong. Now, I'm sorry. That statement alone confirms that they have told Bucks, you are going to be the first senior coach of the football club. And that's fine. If there was any club that Bucks could coach, and there would be, like, who cares? Go for it. It's Tassie. Everybody else, because we're the biggest club in the land, we've got a rivalry with and whatever. That just confirms it. I just think it's a bit cheesy in saying, basically we support Nathan going there, this is that. I wouldn't put it past that. He's had discussions with them, and they've already said to him, if you want to coach us, maybe take an assistant coaching job for a couple of years. And I think that's probably the reason why he didn't take the Melbourne job more than anything, is because, he probably didn't want to go for a senior role. He wanted that one. And then obviously he's taken that. I just don't think there was a need for Tassie to come out and say anything. Like, we know he's taking it. That just confirms that he's taking it. I know it's a weird first jab, but personally myself, I just thought that, just let it go. He's going to come. Let him just have a little apprenticeship, get himself back in the game a little bit after having, a few years off and whatever. So anyway, it is what it is. That's my first jab. Links in the chat. We'll just drop into some of the comments first. Boz is in the house. Mello's in. Stephanus. Mate, Hatters is in as well. And we've got our usual suspects all here, ready to talk all things Collingwood. Mick from the Magpie Army Chronicles has joined us as well. We'll just go to some of the comments. We'll start off here with Mick's. G'day all, what's up? with Leper. No big fish yet. I reckon they're fishing, and I reckon they've cast the fishing rod, the wire, probably into the wrong area at the moment, but they're slowly cooking something up and they're getting to the right section. That's why I think it's very important that we get the Buller deal done. Obviously, there was some pick swaps and stuff like that done today with Brisbane, so that pretty much all but confirms the points and stuff like that we've got for the NGA players now. So I think getting some more picks into this year's draft sort of confirms that, potentially having now that extra pick to trade off to Sydney to get Buller, which I'll talk about in a second, because that was sort of what I wanted to talk about, linked with the row bottom side of things too, which we'll touch on. Hatters has come out here very strong and bold. He's been defiant about this all week. Hope the Pies pass on Simpkin. Not a fan at all. We'll get to that in a second. I'll give you my opinions very, very soon. Boz has asked the $64 million question. Who is the big fish we're after? Well, I reckon we're after everyone, to be honest, but we just got no capital really to go after everyone this year, so we're probably going to have to wait 12 months. Can categorically tell you the Pies are asking the question to Bailey Humphrey non-stop. Non-stop. Gold Coast aren't trading him. They're not turning their heads. That's for something in 12 months. If there was a club that could come up with a really good package for this year's draft and for next year's draft and give away a whole bunch of first-round picks, I can tell you now, Zach Butters would be leaving Port Adelaide without a shadow of a doubt. That would be happening. Is that going to happen in the next 24 hours or less, 23 hours, whatever? No, it's not going to happen. He's going to be at Port Adelaide. I think in 12 months' time, he's either going to be playing for Collingwood, Bulldogs, or Hawthorn. I think they're the three clubs. I don't think Carlton he'd go there. I think they're the three clubs that he'd go for, because they're probably the three closer to finishing in the top four than what Carlton would be. And that's no disrespect. That's just going by, obviously, the positioning of the ladder that was obviously this season just passed. So I'd say it's either Humphrey or Butters. I mean, the King sort of like rumour, sort of, and the murmurs are always there. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm not a big fan of King. I'm more after the one that's going to stand side by side, excuse the pun, next to Nick Dacos, and he's going to feed everything out to him and just go run with him, so to speak. I don't know if Butters is that exact type of player to go in and under and feed it out to him. I feel Butters and Dacos are very similar. They can both do the same sort of damage. But I think if we were to go for someone like an in and under sort of player, someone to bust the packs and stuff like that, that's where the Humphrey side of things I feel is really important. But with that being said, you've also got Ned Long in the team too, who I think, was our most improved player this season, obviously with Lockie Schultz. But I just think that he grew so much. He dipped off at times when we were struggling and stuff like that. But you wouldn't have thought at the start of the season Ned Long was going to be in, your starting 23 and your starting midfield when the pressure was on. You didn't think that at all. So, that leaves a question for Tom Mitchell, which we'll talk about in a second to see what happens once you get through the comments here. Hatters has told, I saw that Boz loves big Mason Cox. So there we go. And Boz was not denying it with that emoji. Hatters has also turned around to us and said, keep our power, I think it's powder dry this trade period, pick up Buller, get our NGAs in the draft, then load up for Butters and King trade period as restricted free agents. I think that is the direction the club is going to, but I just feel we're going to see something. In the next 24 hours, and we'll touch on it in a second as well. We'll just go through all these guys. If you don't want to jump on and anything, that's fine. Send a super chat if you would. It does support the channel, does go a long way, so do appreciate all the support. Mello's got a question here. Do you reckon pick 44 will get Jack Buller deal done? I think it's actually the later pick that'll get the Jack Buller deal done, but now that we've got this one, Sydney will probably be after it and say, hey, listen, can you give us that one? I think we've got a pick in the 50s. I can't remember. Bozza, if you're there, can you drop the draft picks in a comment, please? Milkshakes88 says, we are bundling picks to move down in the draft. I don't really think they care too much about picking up too many players in this season's draft, as long as we can get our NGAs and then try in the next 23 hours to land someone. Chris has said here, what do you expect Collingwood to do tomorrow on the final day of the trade period? We'll get to that in a minute. And then here we've got Glennie coming up with a statement, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Any truth about Collingwood being linked to the Hawks' first pick? Right. Let's just get straight to it first. I think there is truth to it, but I think there's also a waiting game with the whole Zach Merritt deal. I think that pick becomes available to other clubs if the Merritt stuff doesn't go ahead. Now, in the last hour, Merritt has come out and has requested a trade to Hawthorn. So now Essendon sort of have their hands tied behind their back. If for some stupid reason that doesn't go through, then I would be very interested to see what happens with that pick. And I don't think we're the only club linked to it, but I think that we will try and get that number, that pick, that pick 9. So for us to obtain that pick 9, that's when the De Goey part of things comes into play. Now, I don't think that De Goey will leave Collingwood. Just because I don't think it's going to happen doesn't mean it won't. I feel as if that if the deal is right for De Goey, he might turn around and say, hey, listen, they're going to offer me X amount over 4 years. I'm going to finish off my career there. I've got the flag at Collingwood. I'm going to go there. He's pick 9. Is De Goey, the question is that other clubs and stuff like that are going to ask, is Jordan De Goey worth a top 10 pick? Maybe in this draft, because it's a weaker draft compared to what's happening next season. So there is that possibility that, it could happen. Let's take De Goey out of the situation for a second. Who else is it that we could potentially trade for a pick 9? Because if we're going to trade a player for pick number 9, other clubs, especially Hawthorn, they're going to ask for a premiership player. It has to be a premiership player. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know. The club's categorically come out and said that Bobby Hill's not up for trade. And if Bobby Hill was up for trade, he would not be going to another Victorian club. He would be going straight to Fremantle or West Coast, and probably West Coast because they've got all the picks there. The other one that you could think of would be Bo McCreary. But if Bo McCreary was going to be traded off, he'd most likely go back to his home state. And he's been linked with Gold Coast throughout the whole thing. Jamie Elliott just re-signed, so he's not going anywhere. I mean, it's just one of those things where, like, there's untouchables at our football club. There's untouchables at our football club that, and that would be the 2 Dacos boys, Darcy Cameron, and they're probably the 3. Darcy Cameron, because he's structurally our most important player, and the 2 Dacos boys. Everybody else, I believe, is on the table, I suppose. Boz has put up here. We've got draft picks 39, 45, 56, 61, 77, 95, and 113. So, I mean, there's enough picks, back-ended picks there to make up the points to go for our 2 NGA players, and then whatever's left over. I wouldn't be surprised if they held 1 pick over for the mid-season draft, just to see if there's anything that doesn't get picked up and goes from there. But then you've also got list spots coming with the SSPs and the delisted free agents. So there's a whole thing around that too, which, going a bit off the agenda here, there is another thing I did want to ask people about, and I'll get to the answers in the comments as I scroll down. But there's a couple of players that have been interviewed on the radio and stuff like that, which I would love to get people's opinions on. There's one of them which I'm a little bit like, which is Jack Billings. Obviously played, most of his career at St Kilda, ended up a couple of years at Melbourne, was surprised to get delisted, but didn't play every game. But he's 30 years of age, I think, or he'll be 30, so he's still got a couple of years of football left in him. is someone like him for absolute nothing? Would he be someone that they'd bring in as like just a backup? You know, would you go down that path? Hatters has got here. The Cats are throwing up Ollie Henry for trade. Would you take him back? The sad part about that is I reckon most Collingwood supporters would. I think if Ollie Henry didn't leave Collingwood and he stayed in 2023, then he is a premiership player, and I think it's safe to say that Billy Frampton wouldn't be in the side if that was the case. So, I mean, I would, but I'll give you pick 113 and I don't know, a slab of fucking mineral water or something for him. I don't know, but I wouldn't go too far in that. There, Hatters wants to trade Bozza for pick 114. Bozza's too valuable, mate. He's got too much value with the champion data stats and stuff like that. So I really don't want to. Don't want to go there. Hatters again's come up with the questions. Andres, are you keen on Jaden Stevenson? And I know where you're going with this one here, Mr. Fucking Newbacker. If Jaden Stevenson, and I've seen on his Instagram, he's training pretty hard, so he's trying to impress. He's desperate for a spot on the AFL list. He wants to get back into it. If we picked up Stevenson on a rookie contract and it cost the club salary-wise, I don't know, let's just say they put him on the minimum salary, $300,000 or whatever it is. I mean, this is where Bozza comes in with his valuable information, and he tells me what the minimum AFL contract is. I would take him based on the fact telling him, hey, listen, you're going to play your majority of your season, even if it was like, a 2-year contract or whatever, or one if it's a rookie, and then with the hope to, promote him and stuff or whatever. I would take him with him knowing that you're not going to be first choice. You're not going to be, we're not going to look at you to break into the side straight away. You can play the preseason practice games, dominate in the VFL, and then, if we see fit, then we'll elevate you. If that was the direction the club was going to go in, and I think under Fly, as me and Hatters have discussed behind the scenes, under Fly, it is a total different, I don't know what the right word is, but it's a different environment compared to the Buckley era. And I think it's fair to say now that I don't think Geelong will pick him up because Bucks is going to be an assistant coach there. So you can write them off. I just feel that if we were to do it, it's the right environment for him, and they can maybe try and, sneak a bit of a gem here. I mean, can you imagine if he has a good season in the twos, comes and plays a few games in the ones during the season, they offer him and say, here you go, here's a 2-year deal. Have another 2 years in the AFL system, so he plays with us for 3 years, and those 2 years, then he actually breaks into the side and he becomes a damaging forward. I mean, can you imagine if that was the case? So if it's going to cost us next to nothing, it doesn't affect our draft hand, salary cap wise, it's for nothing. You'd be stupid to say no. I mean, you'd be. And I think maybe, and I've said, and I said in one of my videos, I've got no attachment to players. I've got an attachment to premierships. And if we were to get someone like him in the side and, it helped us and it cost us next to nothing, I think every single club in the AFL would obviously bump that. So I hope that answers your question. I've got a comment here from Ocam5123, no to Billings, hell no. Okay, cool, no worries. I'm just using it as an example. The other one was Sam Frost for Hawthorn, defender. He's been delisted. He had a really good season a couple of years ago for Hawthorn, and he actually was out of contract, and he was in his last year of his contract or something, and he got offered. He was getting offers from all different clubs to come to them. And he obviously chose to stay at Hawthorn, pretty much signed the extension for Hawthorn, and he was playing for Box Hill. Is he someone that we could look at? I think he's probably, the game's gone a little bit past him. I think he's maybe, body-wise and stuff, I think he's probably 2 seasons ago. I like, for example, I'd take Stephen May over Sam Frost based on his football ability, but based on desire and wanting to stay in the system. I mean, you don't know. It could be just the little tiny gem that we need in the defense to harden things up. But if there was another player like him out there, I'd definitely have a look at it. So I'm just like using, like, there's players out there like Billings, like Sam Frost that, are becoming available. There was an article about Taron Thomas today. I mean, ability-wise, if he could get back to, a full preseason and stuff like that, you'd take a player like him 100%, but there's just too much drama off the field for that type of crap. Ben Zero has gifted a one black and white membership. Thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. Glenn said here, he goes, he'd take Ollie back in a second. I think, here we go. And then this one here, will we consider Taron Thomas? I don't think the club would consider Taron Thomas, but I just think it's, it's a bit, what club would want to go down that path, especially now with, and I don't want to get into the politics side of things, but just with the AFLW and stuff, like, you just, like, the representation of women in the game and stuff, and everything that he's like done in his past and stuff like that, regardless if he's, like, gone through rehab and he's come out better and stuff like that. I just think it's probably something you just don't want to draw more attention to your football club in that sense there. And if you were going to pick him up and then he was playing good, you're sort of obliged to play him, because if it helps you win a flag, I mean, that's club's perspective on field. That's that's your main goal. And then you're going to have him sitting on the bench the whole time. And then, I mean, different set of circumstances to Bobby Hill, but it sort of becomes a very similar situation to what we faced at the end of this season, where you had a player that, was dying to play, was training, was trying to get himself right. And, at times we probably could have needed him, but, it didn't work out. So I'll just do a couple more comments so we can actually so we can actually get into the thing, because Hatters is coming out with the good stuff. So Hatters, if you want the links in the chat, mate, you can just jump on. It's fine. The last one here would be, that I'll get to now, would be from Chris. He says, do you think Simpkin gets done tomorrow? And if he does, for what pick? So, which is a perfect segue to the first player that I wanted to quickly talk about that Collingwood's been linked to now. We've spoken about the De Goey situation with potential pick number 9 from Hawthorn, but then that pick number 9, if it does come up and we get it for whatever, are we going to be then trading pick number 9 for Simpkin? Geez, I hope not. I mean, the fact that North Melbourne are saying that Jai Simpkin is worth 2 first-round picks is an absolute piss take. He's not worth 2 first-round picks, maybe in the eyes of North Melbourne. I am a 100% bona fide Collingwood nuffy, and I can tell you now, Jordan De Goey is not worth a top 10 pick, right? He's just not. I mean, finals Jordan De Goey is worth a top 2 pick, but consistency over the whole season. I mean, I think the last 4 or 5 years, Geordie's done a pre-season in the middle of the season, whether it's been through misdemeanors, injury, or whatever. Yet I don't think Jordan De Goey is worth a top 10 pick. And if Jordan De Goey is not worth a top 10 pick, there is no way in hell a player like Jai Simpkin is worth 2 first-rounders. Now, if there's any North Melbourne supporters on here watching that are thinking that or saying that he's worth that, you are absolutely delusional, and you're saying it based on emotion. North Melbourne want the 2 first-round picks because of the status of Jai Simpkin in the North Melbourne Football Club. He is co-captain. He has basically been he's like forget the scenario of Zach Merritt wanting out of Essendon, but he's the Zach Merritt of North Melbourne in the sense of he's the spiritual leader. He's the main guy there. He's, you think of North Melbourne, you think of players, you think to yourself, yeah, no worries, Wardlaw, Larkey, Simpkin. You got these type of players that are there. And I just, if Collingwood turned around and said, hey, listen, we'll give you 2 second-round picks and we'll trade off a fringe player. So 2 second-rounders, whether it be 2 future seconds or 1 this year, 1 next year, whatever, and we give you a fringe player. I know this is going to cause controversy because I just don't rate him. And if he ends up having a good season, here's the receipt for you. Screenshot this. I don't rate Ed Allen. He can't kick. I would be like, yeah, take Ed Allen and have 2 second rounders, even though Lockie Sullivan's just signed. Take 2 second rounders. Here's Lockie Sullivan. That's when I'd be like, yeah, no worries. That's a fair deal for Simpkin. I just personally wouldn't be breaking bank for someone like Simpkin. And the biggest problem that we've got with that is I wouldn't want that to damage using any future first round picks for the potential of landing a Humphrey or a Butters next season, or a King, whatever. But midfield wise, if we are in the chat and we are balls deep in it, and Humphrey and Butters have told Collingwood, or they've told their management, fine, no worries for this season, but next year I want to get to the Pies. We need those picks. And the potential to waste it on someone like Jai Simpkin, and I am not trying to be disrespectful here. Jai Simpkin is not a crap footballer. He is a B to B plus footballer. He is a good squad person. He's carrying North Melbourne while they're down towards the bottom, yes, and he wouldn't have that responsibility at Collingwood, so he'd probably play pretty good. You could chuck him in a leadership group or whatever. But then you've got the other aspect of it, not just the draft picks, but North Melbourne being really stubborn about the pay side of things. Now, I think next year, in 2026, Simpkin needs to be paid $1.2 million. I could be wrong, but I think it's about there, part of his contract. So if Collingwood, for some reason, were able to land him and North Melbourne weren't going to pay any of that, well, then that sort of means that, well, North, if you're not going to pay any of his contract, you're not going to get a good pick for it. You're not going to get a better pick no matter what happens there. The only way that Collingwood can make that work properly under their cap and still have enough capital in the salary cap, with the salary cap going higher, but with TPP, that means that player payments go up with the salary cap, so it sort of evens itself out, then how do I say this? You have to increase Jai Simpkin's contract with the years so you could spread the money over, if that makes sense. So if he's on $1.2 million next year, you have to front in his deal, pay him the $1.2 million for next year, sign him up for, if he's got 4 years left in his contract, sign him up at Collingwood for 5, so he finishes his career at Collingwood, and then the remainder of the money that he's owed for that contract, which initially he signed at North, which we're adding an extra year on, you stagger the money out. So he still gets paid the same amount of money, but it's spread out over our cap. That's the only way that Collingwood could possibly make it work in our cap for this season. So, for the season coming up, but then the points, the picks and stuff like that. So that's my Simpkin rant. Do I rate him? I mean, if I got him on the cheap, yes. But I'm not I'm not jeopardizing having someone like a Bailey Humphrey or a Zach Butters come into Collingwood next season and jeopardizing the potential of that, and then having to get rid of more players to get new picks in, to get them in, and effectively damaging our list with the way that it's going. So that's my thing. I think I'm going through the comments now. I think and Mello said you take Simpkin if it meant we get him for a second round pick or less. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think everybody would, but Northwood just won't do that. And that's why personally, I don't think the deal's going to go through. I don't think the deal's going to go through with him. So that's that one there. The next one I wanted to talk about, and I'll jump to the comments in a minute too, but guys, I'll just post a link to, if anybody wants to jump on and have a quick chat, you're more than welcome to come on. Have a chat. It could be Collingwood. It could be anything. I mean, if you want to talk about the Charlie Curnow stuff, the Zach Merritt stuff, I mean, we're all football fans in general. We only want to talk about Collingwood, but I mean, it's trade period. Everybody's an issue at the moment. So the link is in the chat there. Glenn Centerman said, I take Simpkin for a third rounder as long as they are paying 3/4 of his wage. I'd take him for a third rounder and pay all his wage. Or if we were to give up 2 second rounders or something like that, then maybe pay a quarter of it or something. All right. Next one. Rowbottom. This is the one I'm disappointed in. So I've been pretty vocal on Twitter about Rowbottom. I have it on very good authority and very good mail, and this is coming from someone at our club, that Rowbottom was being fished around by Sydney. Now, he spoke to McRae. He spoke to Fly. Fly was instructed to call him because he knew that Sydney were shopping him around. Rowbottom doesn't want to leave Sydney. He's happy there, even though he's a Collingwood supporter growing up. These days, it's a business. That side of that aspect of things, it just goes. So he's comfortable there. His life settled there. Whatever. He doesn't want to leave. Fine. You can't. I wouldn't want to have a play at our club that doesn't want to be there, so to speak. However, why are Sydney shopping him around? They are doing a salary cap dump to get Curnow in. Now, I think the trade that they're going to do with, I think it's there's two players and picks. I just had a mental blank then. Who they're trading. Carlton will accept that, and there's like 2 first-round picks in it as well. I think it's Ollie Florent. There's someone else, and there's 2 first-round picks spread over this season, next season, and a potential second-round pick, whether it's this season or next season as well. So Carlton are going to win out of that trade regardless. As much as they don't want to see one of their star players go, they're going to win out of it, and it's probably going to mean that Harry McKay is going to play better with him being the focal point in their thing. So whatever, that's them. But what happens then is Sydney also need to make the salary cap room, and that's why they were fishing off Rowbottom. Collingwood are interested. Now, if we somehow were able to land a first rounder, I would be saying to Sydney, we'll give you the first rounder, and then you give us Rowbottom and Buller, and then you keep your back end picks. I think those 2 players for a first rounder are more valuable than Jai Simpkin for a first rounder, let alone 2 first rounders. I mean, that's just stupid. But I mean, you could back in some like later picks and swap and stuff like that to make it a bit sweeter. That's fine. But I would much prefer doing that. With that being said, now it's not going to happen. I was convinced it was going to happen, and I wouldn't have posted it on Twitter and got as much hate as I did. People saying, "Oh, he's not being fished around," and then straight away in the media, within 24 hours later, Sydney are shopping him around, and all that stuff that I heard was true. The last one, obviously, is Buller. I mean, we've just spoken about Rowbottom potentially being in a deal with Buller for a first-round pick. I do think that Buller goes for a late second-round pick, potentially an early third. Sydney, bit contradicting with what they're saying about how much they rate him and how disappointed they are when they only offered him a 1-year contract extension. Collingwood have got 2 on the table. He's requested a trade to Collingwood. This deal gets done tomorrow. This deal gets done, I think, early tomorrow. I don't see this one going late. I think this one goes early because I see Collingwood talking about, another player potentially, whether it be a Simpkin trying to negotiate with North and stuff like that. I think that will go down to the wire, but I don't think that that's going to happen. So there's a lot of rumors and stuff happening about Simpkin, which I was going to talk about, but I'm probably not going to mention tonight. But just to give you guys an indication, it's a bitter situation with him in North Melbourne. It's a bitter situation with Simpkin in North Melbourne. So he might not want to go back there. And I think a lot of that's probably going to come out tomorrow when the deal sort of gets closer to. So that's the players that I wanted to talk about now. And then we'll get, obviously, I want to talk about Mitchell. I want to talk about Cox. And then we'll touch on some Brody Mychik if anyone wants to jump on. You're all camera shy tonight. That's fine. I'm happy to talk myself, but the link is in the chat if you wanted to come on. Hatters, I'm still looking at you, Glenn. You're talking away. Click the link, mate. Jump on. All right, we'll catch up here. So Peter G says Butters and Humphrey aren't leaving their clubs this year. That's correct. They're not. We've got one here says, thank you. Totally agree about Ed Allen and agree about Simpkin. We will want to break up that pick 9 into 2 first rounders. Yeah, so I think so. Potentially. We could potentially do that. But then like that, even if, let's just say the worst thing happened, and the Pies were for some stupid reason hell-bent on getting Simpkin into the side, which I don't think they're going to be doing it like that. But let's just say there's pick 9 and there was another player available and they desperately wanted this player to come over. Let's just use Zach Butters as an example. It's not going to happen, so we'll just use it as an example. Let's just say if Zach Butters said that, no, I want to go to Collingwood, this is that. Port said, well, unless there's 2 first-round picks this year, it's not happening. Then the worst would happen. We would trade off someone like a De Goey to a Hawthorn. We would get that pick 9. we would then trade that pick 9 to another to another team to try and get maybe picks 11 and 15 as an example, to then give to Port Adelaide and say, here's your 2 first rounders, give us Zach Butters and we can do some other back-ended swaps. That's potentially how that could work. So it's not going to happen this year, but my biggest fear, though, is that we are going to lose Jordan De Goey. He doesn't want to leave, though. Like he said to the club, he said to the club that, I'm settled. His guy's having a baby, for God's sake. So there's no way that he would want to pick up and relocate interstate. So, I mean, that's why if there's another club, a Victorian club that is on the verge of, premiership success, i.e. Hawthorn, it's probably someone they want to look at. But that all depends also on the deal with Zach Merritt. And now that Merritt has requested a trade to Hawthorn, that's why I think the Collingwood De Goey leaving side of things is probably not going to happen. I mean, unless North Melbourne want to come to the party. If North Melbourne want to come to the party and give us Simpkin, give us Larkey, give us Wardlaw, you can have Jordan De Goey if that's the case. So, and I'm being a smart ass with that. It's not going to happen. Adams comes out with another bomb. Simpkin is a poor man's Taylor Adams. Oh. Is Taylor Adams even still playing at Sydney? Like, is he still on their list? No, that's me. I'm being serious. I'm not even joking. Milkshake says, Simpkin not worth it as it will destroy our chances in the cap to go after better players. As I said before, not if we stagger out the wage, if we stagger out the money terms and we extend the contract by another year. So if there's 4 years on his contract, we give him 5 at Collingwood, we're able to get his pay and stagger it over the length. So it's 5 years, same money. You can have your 1.2 next year, and then from 2027 onwards, you'll be on 800,000 or something like that. If that makes sense. If they were really smart and they wanted to do that, load up his contract this year, pay him 1.5 if you can fit it into the cap, and then pay him peanuts for the remainder, and just give him like a leadership group position or something. Just shut him up. Peter G. I would go pick 15 from the Suns and a future second for Simpkin with a future third back our way. So I would go pick 15 from the Suns and a future second for Simpkin with a future third back our way. North's third rounder next year wouldn't be too far from our second round this year. Yes, because of the position that they're going to finish in. So their second round pick will be high. That's actually not that bad. How would we get pick 15 from the Suns, though? What's happening there? There's no more Johnny Nobles to trade off. Mello says, Lepper knows we are desperate for an inside midfielder. I think that's the case too. And then there's another one I should have written down. And Hatters, you can jump on this one if you want. Do we go for Jack Steele? Now, I know people are watching this saying, no. Some people will say, yeah. Personally, myself, unfortunately, in this situation, I am 100% on the side of Kane Corns. He is a one-way runner. If we're playing well and doing well, Jack Steele could be, I'm not going to put him in the Pendlebury conversation, but he could be that on-field leader. He would be the director. He would be the good tackler. He would be the person, basically, the core of the midfield in that sense. And it would be a big help to Dacos. But if we're getting pumped like we got pumped against Hawthorn towards the back end of the season, like when we got, even the prelim final against Brisbane, Jack Steele's not going to win you that game. Jack Steele's not going to be the difference. Jack Steele's not going to be the Luke Ball of 2011 against Hawthorn. You're not going to have that. If Jack Steele was to come to Collingwood and we were to get him, I would be disappointed if it was anything over a third round pick to St Kilda. I would be, I'd be shattered. Personally, again, it's another one. If we are desperate and we've got a third round pick sitting there, I would pick him up for a third round pick, but I wouldn't guarantee him anything. It would just be to help out the young players in the side. I did see that before. Hatters put a comment on to, and I skimmed past it. I do apologise. We need to give TJ, Reef, and Jacob Ryan first cracks as the tall medium defenders. in 2026. My phone is going off its head. Look, I'm real like keen on this one. So TJ, I think could be something pretty good for us. He's very athletic. He's very quick. He's got a different style of play to our usual. Is just different build, different athleticism. I'd love to see him have a good go. Obviously, he's got the hip injury, which is getting over. So, he'd be good. Reef, I think, you can see on his socials, he's training and stuff like that quite well. So, I wouldn't be too surprised if he isn't back straight away if his knee's 100%. Jacob Ryan's an interesting one. There have been some rumors and stuff like that floating around that potentially he could actually be delisted and re-rookied, very similar to Markov, but I just don't know if that sets a really good precedence for if they've what their vision for him going forward is. I loved the way that he played in the practice games, if you guys remember, against the match simulations against Brisbane and against Gold Coast at the start of the season up in Gold Coast. I thought he was actually quite good. Wasn't able to crack into the side, got injured. He's had that one game experience and he ended up getting knocked out against the Bulldogs in 2024. So, he just had such bad luck. And I just feel it could be another Charlie Dean similar situation with him. But I'd love to see him get a good crack, and I hope he has a real good preseason because I think he does the 2K time trial actually pretty well. So, all right, we'll get to before I jump into the next comments and stuff, and I will go. I will go back to them and stuff like that after I see. After I speak about this, but okay. So we've got Tom Mitchell and we've got Mason Cox. Now this is where things get a little bit. I'll just put the link on there too if anyone wants to jump in. Just chuck that up in the comments now too. So this is where it gets a bit funny. We saw Mason Cox's post on Instagram today. He's obviously heading back to America for a little bit. I think there's a sense of, judging by that, reading it from an outsider's point of view, whether I'm a Collingwood supporter or not, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking to myself, he's probably not going to get offered the contract. The problem that I've got with this, and everybody knows that I'm a big fan of Mason, okay? I am a big fan of the Big Texan. I don't think he got a fair crack at it this season. With that being said, he sort of let himself down. Before I get into the trade side of things, that game at Easter Thursday against Brisbane, if Mason Cox kicks those 2 goals at the start of the game when he had those set shots, he probably stays in the side for another 4 to 5 weeks. The game against the Bulldogs where we just won, he was influential in certain parts when it was, he was influential in certain parts where, we scored goals. He set up Bobby Hill's goal. He was presenting up forward. Lob obviously smashed him in the face or whatever. He just has impacts at times during games which are very important. Then you got to think about the whole, support to Darcy Cameron. Now, all right, let's just say we delist him. We say, Mason, you're a Collingwood legend, you're a life member, you're a premiership player. You'd go down as our best ever tap ruckman. Let's be serious, yeah? Who's gonna be Darcy Cameron's backup? Are we going to go for? Are we seriously going to rely on McStay to be a backup ruckman? Because I want McStay sitting out of the goal square. I want McStay to be a Harry Mackay on steroids. Take grabs and actually kick straight. I want to see the 2 backups, Smith and Steen, push the break into the side. I think Steen is closer, and I think he will get a gig this year. A few games this year. But if Darcy Cameron goes down, what have we got? You got to have that insurance there. And now with the fifth interchange, you can afford to play 2 ruckmen every single week. Are we then just going to rely on someone like a Reef McGuinness, someone like a Billy Frampton doing the relief ruck work for a game, and then just get the next guy in the 2s? I'm not convinced. I personally think they need to get Mason on a rookie contract and keep him at the club for another season, and then do yourself a favor and actually try and go for a ruckman to back up Cameron. The other only option is, I know people are going to be like, what the fuck, but this is just because there's nothing else out there. Are you looking at the Soldo situation? Because what else is there? Is that something that we're looking at? Now, I haven't heard anything, but I'm just thinking to myself, we've got to have that backup ruckman there. So, I don't know. It's a very there's lots of comments here. I'm sorry, guys, but I just I don't know. Is Buller the next option to obviously help out in the forward line once we pick him up? Anyway, that's just my take on Coxie. I'd give him another year, but on a rookie deal, get him in the twos, maybe help him develop the two ruckmen that are in the twos, and then see how it goes. I just, if you had a spare pick there doing absolutely nothing, and Soldo was available, and I know that he's, it's been quite obvious that his missus is pushing him to come back to Victoria. I mean, we've picked up worse. So that's just my personal opinion. The next one, Tom Mitchell. Now, we were all raving about him. When obviously he got injured at the start of the season, training the house down, played really well in the twos. Everyone's like, yeah, let's come in. He's come into the side against Carlton, was his first game back. Picked up 20-something disposals off the top of my head. Now, the thing is, and I've said this before, Tom Mitchell's a real, he's a wombat. He's a ground player. He's just a contested ball winner. He's a hog. He just gets the ball. He's like a bulldog in there and stuff. And, we're screaming for that right now. Game's gone past him a little bit. He's a little bit slower. He played really well against Carlton, and that's simply because Carlton were just a really crap contested ball team. They didn't spread well. They weren't fast off the breaks or anything like that. So, Carlton draws the players in. He was the perfect player for that. Then the week after, when we played against where did he play? Or it was like 2 weeks later, we played against Fremantle. I think he got dropped or whatever it was, and then we played against Fremantle. Now Fremantle are also very much a contested ball side, but they're also a side that can change play in a split second, and they can really break you apart and spread really well. Against us at the MCG, they did that. And, we still should have beaten them, but I don't think the game suited Tom Mitchell then. And then that's when there was a lot of the questions about Tom Mitchell and Ned Long playing in the same side together. They were, I think, really made obvious that I think the questions were then proved to be the correct questions to ask. Whether they were right or wrong is a different story, but it's definitely a question that was obviously quite obvious and needed to be asked of our football club. So with a player like Ned Long playing, I think it was against Freo, or was it against somebody else? I can't remember. I just had a bit of a mental blank there. But anyway, my point being is I think Tom Mitchell can only play against the bottom teams in the competition and still match it. I don't think he can play against the fast-breaking Brisbane, Geelong. I don't think he'd be able to, play against a Hawthorn or anything like that at all. So it's Gold Coast, So I would think that you probably have to say to Tom Mitchell that it's time to go. And I wouldn't be surprised if a club like an Essendon, if a club like, I don't know, even North Melbourne went after him, I would definitely be like, thank you for your services. And I think just the sad part about the whole Tom Mitchell side of things is we got a really good season out of him in 2023. And I just feel we didn't get enough out of it after that because he was injured for such a long time. And I think that's really sad because he was such a good player at Hawthorn, Brownlow medalist. I mean, even though he had the backwards hand passes and they were always against us, racks up 50-something touches. That 2023 season, he was such a difference for us. It was something that we needed, and it was a pickup that, very much like the Luke Ball pickup in the end of 2009 going into 2010, just that pickup alone, along with Darren Jolly, I think put us in the right position structurally to 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 win the flag. And I think there was a carbon copy with Tom Mitchell in that sense, picking him up at the end of 2022, going in 2023, and were able to do what we did. I think was amazing. So I mean, he is a Collingwood legend. You're a premiership player again, life member. Same with Mason Cox. You're just always going to be a part of Collingwood folklore. But I just feel as if the game has gone past him, and if he was to go to another club, I wouldn't see him lasting more than a season. And if a club could get Tom Mitchell right, I'll put this out there. If a club like Essendon or North Melbourne picked up Tom Mitchell and got him right and got 2 seasons out of him, that's a fucking fair effort. Like, as a Collingwood supporter, I'd sit there and be like, yeah, that's amazing. Some other news. If there's any other players and stuff like that, we'll get to it. Actually, what I'll do is first I'll spend the next 5 minutes just going over some of the comments. If I've missed your comments and stuff like that, I do apologise. There is a shitload that I've got to catch up on and go through. So I do. Peter Nutt's still talking about the Simpkins stuff. So Simpkins worth the future second rounder, and that's it. I think so. Hatters has said he's got no voice at the moment. I'll stay off the chat tonight. He's let his fingers do the talking. I've got here Chris Demos. Can't see us making any significant moves this year. They'll hit 2026 trade free agency like a freight train. See, yeah, but that's good. But it just means, like, what does that mean for our season? Like, so I personally, and people can crack the shits at me for saying this, but I'll never lie on the channel. I'll never not tell people what I think. I don't think we're going to win the flag next year without improving our list. Getting a player just like Buller and getting the NGAs in, I don't think is going to improve our list. I don't think it's going to help out. So if we're going to maintain the list, i.e. Mason Cox, you've got to get him in, and you've got to get him on a rookie deal to help out. Even if it's in the twos, just have the option there and say, listen, we're going to keep for another year, but your pay is not going to be as good. He wants to stay. He'll probably take it and say, yep, no worries, unless he's already talking to another club. I don't want to see us waste the last season of, I think Sidey will go on for another 2 more. So I think Sidey will go on 26 and 27. Excuse me. But I don't know if like Pendles and Howe, this is their last seasons. I don't want to waste their seasons and have it, like a 2024 season where it's like, we sort of come all right towards the end, but we still miss. I mean, it means we can launch into 2027. And I don't want it to be like 2021 either, where, we've had, on field, on paper in 2021, we had this grouse list. We had a really strong list in 2021. We were a team that should have pushed for finals in 2021, but we had off-field drama, we had injuries, we had, all the stuff still from COVID playing into the thing. We're still playing games interstate. We just had the big salary cap dump with Stevenson and with Trelaw and all that type of crap. And it was frustrating. It was sad. With that being said, though, because we finished so low on the ladder, it gave us the favourable fixture in 22, which allowed us then to get everything right, get the new voice in, and then catapult up. And we missed the grand final by a point, which, I'm not saying we'd have won the grand final that year, but I think we would have put up a better fight than Sydney. So, things happen for a reason, so to speak, but you just don't want to waste the season, especially when you've got 2 legends and potentially 3 legends of the club playing. You don't want to see them going down. So, I would be happy for us not to bottom out, for us to stay mid-table, still get those picks in, and then catapult, which is a real big reason why I am so for the wildcard final in that week off between the season finishing and the finals. The wildcard round, I think, would work absolute wonders for us, because I do think we're going to be around that 6th to 9th position next season, just for next season, and then we're going to go back up again. If we're in that position, and this is me thinking really pessimistic, this is me thinking that, the age, the experience side of things might catch up to us because we haven't got the youngest list in the competition. If that's the case, let's say we'll make a wild card and we'll win it. And then all of a sudden we'll win an elimination final. We're fucking 3 games away from a granny. We're 2 games away from a prelim. That for me, I think that's a real good effort, but that's just my personal opinion on that. Melo's got here. Hawthorn seems to go here as the backup option. I think he is the backup option to Merritt. And that's why I don't think it's going to happen, because Merritt's now formally requested a trade. From what I was flicking through, it said here, it said on one of the pages, I think on AFL Paradise on Instagram, it said that Merritt was actually looking and so they want to go. Melbourne would be interested in to go after losing Track and Oliver. Well, I mean, if you want to hand over one of your picks you're getting for Track, that'd be nice. So you can go to Melbourne with bells on. I don't care. Yeah, Taylor Adams is still on sponsor list. Shit. I think he's going to be a real estate agent next year. Not a bad thing to be quiet this year. We will have a much better read on where the list is in 12 months. Yeah, I suppose so. With Pendlebury side bottom and how retiring at the end of 26, we have 1 million war chest to use. Hello, Zapatas. Pick 9 for pick 15 and 18 from the Suns. Yes, okay. So now I get what you're saying, Peter, about splitting that pick up. That's what you meant. Tom Allen says, does the club not have faith in Demeter and Allen? I think they can feel our needs. Okay. Demeter needs to, I mean, he's got a pretty tough gig trying to break into the midfield and the wing and stuff like that. I think he will next season. I think he will be close to a start. I think he just needs to have his opportunity. The Ed Allen side of things, I mean, good physique, just the perfect Adonis of a male specimen of a footballer. Quick, can get the ball, he can go, but I just don't feel he's got any sort of accuracy in his kicking. So, yeah, I don't know. The good part about Ed Allen, though, and I will say this, he was able to string more consistent games together this season than in 2024. Like, he was able to, get a good batch of games in. So, if we were to cop a few injuries and stuff like that, then obviously he would. And if we're not to trade him out this season, it gets his currency up. And then if a West Coast or a Fremantle came knocking and they had a relatively good pick, then I'd personally be all for it. So, yeah. Mello's gone. Rather Steele over Simkin. Oof. Ooh, geez. I'd rather Simkin, I think. I'd probably rather Simkin. Hatters, I prefer to give Demeter game time over Jack Steele. We need to have a crack at another flag in 2026, but also regenerate on the run. Yeah. I mean, I hope we can get a gig, because I mean, it could be the fact that we've got this like little fucking diamond in the rough just there sitting there, and we've brewed him for the past 2 seasons or whatever it is, and he's about to explode. I mean, that'll be nice. Glenn said here, Steele would have to be real cheap. I mean, yeah, real cheap. I'm talking like next to nothing cheap. This is a good point. Jack Steele gives nothing that Titch can't. Yeah. And then Ben's backed him up pretty much top. Yeah. Peter G says Ryan will be delisted. I've heard things that he'll be delisted and potentially re-rookied. I think they're just waiting to see what happens there. Now, Nathan Buckley. This is not trade stuff. This is just personal opinion. So obviously my first jab, if you joined late, my first jab was about Tassie and the whole, like, did you really need to make a comment with Nathan Buckley, getting the gig as the assistant coach there? Now, I think it's just going to be weird from a Collingwood point of view, seeing Nathan Buckley at another club based in Victoria. The fact that he's gone to Geelong, I mean, he said today on Trade TV, they've been successful, very successful there. He wants to be part of that environment. I think it's good for Bucks to get back into it if he wants to be a senior coach and still be in the media and stuff like that. I just wish it wasn't a team wearing navy blue, to be honest with you. But that's just a personal opinion. Guys, I'm going to give this another couple of minutes. I'm going to do this one last time in case anyone does want to jump on. I know it's getting late now. It's 9:30, but If you want to jump on and have a quick chat, that's the last time I'll post the link there. We'll just give it another couple of minutes. I'll just scroll down and go down here. But does it feel like as a Collingwood supporter that we're just getting a little bit desperate now? Because we've had in the trade period, like over the past couple of years, we've brought in some really key contributors to our team, and we've over the years of the trade period, we've actually done pretty well apart from the flash sale. But the flash sale in itself was able, to provide us as a little bit of a platform moving forward, which actually got us into a good position to win the flag in 2023. So, but it's just coming across that we're just a little bit desperate at the moment, and it's just like we've just got to get someone sort of thing. And to be fair, I'd rather not damage, our list even more for one season just to try and turn around to the media and say, yeah, we got someone. So I don't know what's going to happen there, and I don't want them to waste the last day trying to decide on a player like Simpkin and waste it. I mean, if they truly believe, that they can get him for next to nothing, like a second rounder or 2 second rounders, do it, but not at first. I don't think the first is. Glenn says here, the growth has to come from within. We need 2 or 3 to rise up and claim spots. And to be fair, you're 100% correct there. I mean, I would love it if we just didn't go to the trade period every single year and, and we didn't have to say, like Leopard didn't have to come out and say, we need to fill this inside mid role so bad in our football team, as well as potentially another key forward or whatever it is. But the inside mid is the number one thing we need to support Nick Dagos. I mean, we know that. Probably don't say it, because then it makes us look desperate. These young kids that we've got, and if you're a true Collingwood supporter and you've been to, so I shouldn't say true Collingwood supporter, but if you're a Collingwood supporter and you've been to training and you've seen these kids and stuff like that, there's so much talent there, but they just got to get the opportunity. And I think the problem is we've got our team is just so stacked of older players at the moment. And, with us playing good for most of the season this year and for pretty much half of the season being the best side in the competition, it's going to be extremely hard for these players to obviously go into think. Hatters, you've just stolen my last point. I had it written here with my doctor's handwriting that it was, where is it here? Geelong VFL coach Mark Corrigan. Mark Corrigan, we are chasing him to come to Collingwood. They obviously rate him. I think he was at Essendon before that, and he was somewhere else before that as well. So, I mean, in the VFL ranks, he's highly regarded. So, I think, we've got 3 spots, I think, to fill with the whole assistant coaching sort of role. I mean, Fraser's gone. We lost Otten, and we've obviously lost Selwood, which is fair enough. So, I'm hoping, though, like after a few years, maybe even just 2 years, whatever it is, if Selwood was to come back to the football club, I think that would be amazing. But obviously, with the devastation and stuff that he's faced, this season, I think it's fair to say that the guy. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, he's my age pretty much, and to think about the shit that he's gone through, I mean, he definitely needs to step away from it and have some family time. We have a guest. We'll do this for 5 minutes. There you go. Coached a flag at Casey in 2021. So it was Melbourne and Essendon. He was there before things. So thanks, Bozza. I mean Hatters. I'm going to add Sean to the stage. Sean, you there, mate?
Yep, I'm all here. What's going on?
Oh, just living the dream here, mate. Talking about the trade period and stuff like that. It's. I was just saying before you jumped on, it just seems like we're feeling a bit desperate. Do you get that vibe as well?
I've actually been in a pretty good position because I really haven't been listening to much trade talk this year.
Yeah.
And God, like I had a little bit of like a skim through like the last like few days and stuff, and I couldn't have been happier for the choice. Like, the fact that I think I was on Twitter yesterday and stuff, and hearing North fans have a cry about Simpkin and stuff, and they want to have this talk about how he's worth, 2 first-round picks, which is incredible to me because I just don't see anything but a 2022 trade period of like Tom Mitchell from that situation. In terms of like trade value, it's just it's yeah, kind of incredible. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, like as long as we get that inside mid, we get Buller, which is going to be our full forward, which finally we should have a full forward by the end of this trade period. Mhm. Yeah, whoever
Yeah,
that inside mid is obviously, yeah, who knows? Could be Simkin,
I've
could be
got
somebody else.
I've got a comment here from Mick Saka. He's probably sitting there smiling, laughing at the screen right now. But he said that
Yeah.
Sean is a huge Steel fan, and I know you are. You take him, wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, in terms of everything he offers on paper, I think I don't know if I would say that I'm a huge fan of it, but I do like what he offers on paper. Like, we I don't know if we talk about it much, but Tom Mitchell not being at the club next year, you would think, um, I feel like he can have that role. We do need someone to win the ball, and
Mm,
get on their hands and knees to then handball it out to a Dacos and things like that. I feel like Steele can do it. Like other things, is it a move where it's not super appealing? Like I can understand that aspect, but again, it's like we need one specific role of an inside mid to be filled. And yeah, but then there are things that concern me, like his pace. Like I'm not really. I think he is in the same aspect of Tom Mitchell in that regard, but again, it's if you need that inside mid, go out and get an inside mid. Like you don't need the inside mid to be kicking 60 goals for the year. You don't need the inside mid to be shutting down the full forward every game. So if you can just get a inside mid that can tackle and get the loose balls, um, it's sort of yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it seems like Collingwood need that type of player. If you get Steele for a fourth round pick, even fifth round pick, given that what was it, Freo? No, not Freo. Freo traded. I'm going blank on the player, but yeah, I think he went to Port for pick 103 or whatever. Even if it's one of those situations,
mm,
um, yeah, I mean it's definitely an option to look at. I mean, even I know he's a bit like more of a long term aspect, but even like a Henry Huswaite, I feel like would be even a good option to look at because there was some trade ideas throwing around that Hawks are basically throwing everything like two first and a second and Huswaite or
mm.
Zach Merritt. Um, if that means they get like a Degoe and stuff. I'm not saying yes to that trade, but
No, I know what you're saying. You're just using it,
yeah,
yeah, the pick side of the example. Yeah, no, I know.
yeah,
I'm just looking here now, like I'm just on Zero Hanger, and if people haven't known, Zero Hanger is just fucking always on point with everything with their
yeah.
stats and all their and everything. And I'm just looking at the delisted players and stuff like that from other sides that have come up, and I'm looking at these, and I genuinely don't see any sort of players that that just jump out at me for that inside mid role. Like I'm looking at certain I'm looking at certain areas. Sorry, I'm just going to answer this. My wife will lose her mind if I don't respond back to this message. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I'm looking at all these names, and there's no real inside mids apart from the older boys that jump out at me. I mean, there's a couple of backmen here that I'm looking at that I would be like, yeah, okay, no worries. So, like, for example, would you take Chincotta from Carlton?
I
Like,
don't really
it's,
see much of his game to have an
it
opinion, to
won't
be honest.
cost you anything. I mean, I'm just looking at these other. I'm just looking at there's no one else. Like Adelaide have delisted Harry Schollenberg. I mean, he'd be someone that I would look at. Chincotta, maybe. Um, if only Dylan Shield wasn't old. If he was a bit younger, then yes.
Mm.
Um, It's just there's not a lot that's really like popping out. Like Gold Coast have delisted Alex Sexton. I mean, he's more of a sort of like a swing
forward.
man. Yeah, like he can play both. The other only one that sort of like rings a bell I'm looking at here, and I said it before, and a lot of people said no, is Jack Billings, but I just feel like he wasn't used properly at Melbourne. I've rated him at St Kilda quite highly. I know that was a long time ago now. I mean, I think his 2018 or 2019 season was ridiculous, but I mean, that's like 7-8 years ago now. So I'm living in La La Land with that there, but I just think that, if you get him for nothing, pretty much, it's worth a shot. But just here, I'll just quickly. Says Chincotta shit. And then you got Mick Sacker. He says, I take Chincotta. I've seen him do good jobs, but don't expect much. I'm just looking at this, man, like this list now, and I really can't see too much that's great. If we were looking at a player for pure speed, I mean, you can look at Petruccelli from West Coast that got delisted. He's a Melbourne boy. He's from the northern suburbs of Melbourne. I mean, you take him for nothing for pure speed, but then you're sort of basically getting yourself another sort of Ed Allen. Does that make sense? Like, disposal's not the greatest, but speed's sort of good at the same time too.
Yeah. And I mean, at that point, you might as well just back in the one at that point.
Well, you might as well just back in the players that we've got. I just don't feel like there's enough out there. I think there's more value in the trade than the actual delistings. If I had to pick a number one delisting, though, that I would probably want to come into the club, I would probably go for Sam Frost from Hawthorn, just for that backup in defence. I think he's probably the only one I think has got some sort of substance still. I think he's better than Charlie Dean. I think the game may have gone past him a little bit, but just as the backup there, I would definitely get him on, a contract next to nothing and just try and see if something can be made out of it. But there's not really much that's happening at the moment on the delisting
Would
front.
you take crossover Blight though? Because I feel like there's only one spot in that key defense. Because with Dean being delisted now, there's one spot in that position. But I think I'd still rather back in Blight. Younger, will obviously be on the list a lot longer than what Frost will.
Yeah. Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
There's the SSP stuff. There's the rookie draft. There's stuff like that too. Anyway, Sean, I'm gonna move on so I can get here because Hatters. I think I've just made him angry with the whole Chincotta side of things. He's just put up here. He goes, if you get him delisted from Carlton, you're cooked. So and I'm just saying, there's not much on there. that's all I'm saying. So. Anyway, Sean, thanks for jumping on, mate. We will do another one next week and we'll go over the trade period. Hopefully we can somehow pull a rabbit out of the hat and land a big fish. Tomorrow.
Absolutely.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? No worries, mate. Thank you so much for jumping on. Appreciate it.
Oh, good. Anytime.
Alrighty. I'm going to leave it at that before I say any more Carlton players' names and Hatters decides to jump on with his no voice and goes wild at me. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. It was a big show. I think I covered pretty much everything. I don't know if I really missed too much, but so we spoke about Simkin, we spoke about Rowbottom, Degoe, Buller. The other one I wanted to talk about too, obviously, and I mentioned him at the start, was just Brody Mychek going to Melbourne. Obviously, sad to see him go. Understandable with everything that's going on with the contract side of things. I do think though it was the right time, taking my emotion side of it, because I'm not emotionally attached to players apart from Nick Dacos. I think it was the right time. There was a photo that was posted today with him, Jack Crisp, Johnny Noble, and Hoskin Elliott, and Checkers was in the moon boot. So I think it just goes to show that, he probably wasn't right to play the prelim, in my personal opinion. He's probably had some stuff done to it previously, which he needs to put in a moon boot or whatever, which is totally understandable. But I just think the time for him to go was right, and we need to actually, focus on Charlie West. And I think Charlie West is going to be the big bolter for us next season. Sean just quickly asked another question too. Forgot to ask him who's on. So just to clarify, is Jordan De Goey actually going now that Merritt has requested the trade to Hawthorn? Pick 9 has to be involved in that, and I think that was the only way that Collingwood was going to turn their head. So I don't think it's going to happen. I'm pretty comfortable to say Jordan De Goey will stay, but we have seen some strange things happen in trade periods. We have seen some really strange things happen in general. He might turn around and say, you know what, stuff is all. I'll go to West Coast, and then West Coast can give us pick 1 and pick 2, which is, I'm just joking, but a man can dream. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Love to have you all on. Hatters has also just said here, thanks for everything, Checkers. Just a Collingwood man through and through. Brody Mycheck. We will be doing a trade recap video filming tomorrow night, and that'll be a recorded video, so that'll get posted later tomorrow, probably at around about 9:30 tomorrow. I'll post that one there on YouTube once all the results and stuff like that have gone through, and see where we're at. It could be just a repeat of some of the stuff that we've said tonight, simply just due to the fact that I'm not sure if we're going to get anybody else, but we've had a big show. Heaps of people jumped on. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure if you're going to rewatch this or whatever, you want to talk more trade stuff, make sure you drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Call it as you see it. And as always, go the Pies.